Good afternoon and welcome to the Digital Health Ecosystem Wales event launching the NHS Wales Developer Portal. We're going to have a demo later this afternoon and I'll just sort of quickly run through what the events of the day are. First of all, we want to thank, we're delighted to be part of Wales Technology Week and that's why we wanted to make sure that we had something to show during the event, and so we're very delighted to be part of the proceedings. What we're going to do this afternoon is we're going to have a presentation from Eugene, who is a member of the DHEW API team within NWIS. There's going to be then an opportunity for you to provide feedback using Mentimeter. So we'll be able to get feedback from all of the people on the stream this afternoon. There's also going to be an opportunity for questions and answers at the same time, because we really want to sort of show you where we've got to. And we really are doing that now as a way to get feedback. So we really want this to be an interactive session. Should have introduced myself at the start. I'm Helen Northmore. I'm the Programme Manager for the Digital Health Ecosystem in Wales. And what I'm going to do now is hand you over to Eugene O'Sullivan, who is the Senior Product Specialist within the NWIS team.
Thanks very much, Helen. Well, hope you're all in good mood this afternoon. My name is Eugene O'Sullivan. I work for NWIS, and as Helen said, I'm a senior product specialist with the ecosystem team. So for the benefit of those of you who don't know, and I'm sure many of you do, the ecosystem is a collaboration between the Life Sciences Hub and NWIS, where the Life Sciences Hub are looking to bring together industry, clinicians, policymakers, and making it easier and faster to adopt digital healthcare technology in Wales. And on the NWIS side, we've got a team of developers, including myself, who are looking at securely opening up NHS Wales systems and data to developers to ease that burden of integration and improve understanding of digital architecture. Now, very quickly, I won't labour it too much, but if you're not aware, an awful lot of stuff happens with the Life Sciences Hub, where they're looking at setting up events and seminars, resource tracking, looking at future funding opportunities, exhibiting at various events. There's a very active website, digitalhealth.wales, which is well worth visiting if you haven't already, and an active Twitter feed at DHE Wales. And what I've mentioned as well, they do offer support with regards to projects as well as integration. These are the three work streams of the ecosystem, and the main thing I'm going to be concentrating on over the next 40 minutes or whatnot will really be about platform and API development. So what are the aims of the ecosystem? To accelerate and deliver adoption of the latest digital solutions to improve patient outcomes and reduce costs, to create a pathway for access to health and care data through the development of APIs in a test environment, foster innovation for all stakeholders, encouraging cross-sector cooperation and implementation, and supporting the development of new products and services to drive business growth, job security and creation. And there's a few drivers here. One of the drivers is the Healthier Wales review, where we were looking at where there was a real drive to develop an open platform approach to digital innovation through publishing national standards for how software and technologies work together and how external partners can integrate with that and work with us. Within NWIS, we had the Digital Architecture Review, where it was recommended that we enhance that integration and interaction to provide a truly open platform for Wales. And there's different aspects for this as well. There's the Welsh Technical Standards Board, which has set out a statement of principles as well that we're looking at, that need to focus on user need to enable developer productivity and experience, and to be more open by default within NHS Wales to open up technical standards and also look to open up source code. And that's really where we're looking to securely open up the architecture. But a big key aspect of this as well is, of course, making it interoperable, looking at standard-based interoperability health and care systems for Wales. So a quick background around this. We've been looking at engagement over the last couple of years. There's been engagement both internal and external, groundwork being done within NWIS and the wider NHS Wales team to gain engagement and promote the value of open architecture internally. We've been working with partners already and have released a number of test APIs with regards to using the ecosystem as an R&D space. And we've really been laying the foundations and doing a lot of preparation work to be able to open up some of this information to industry, looking at setting up a baseline infrastructure for that R&D space, looking at how we can adopt new open standards and how we can drive forward interoperability for healthcare. And like I said again, the open architecture aspect of that's really just a pervasive thread in everything we want to do. So I'm going to have a quick chat about APIs and interoperability. Now, I would imagine there aren't many on the call who probably aren't aware of what an API is, but just in case, it's an application programming interface. So an API is something that is a URL that receives and returns data. It lists a bunch of operations that a developer can do against a data set and a description of what they do and how they can get that data back. So there are different types of APIs, obviously. SOAP was a standard approach to web service interfaces for a long time, although it's been dominated more by REST in recent years. I think REST now represents about 70% of public APIs. Now, there's HL7 Fire as well, and one of the things I want to mention when we talk about that interoperability and a standard approach, looking at interoperable standards, I think Fire, which is a RESTful API, is something I'll get into in a bit more detail, because it gives us a bit more of a framework for what we work against. Because with regards to REST, what you'll find with regards to REST and with regards to SOAP is that when teams tend to develop themselves. So one application team goes off and develops here for a certain use case. Another application team goes off and develops to a certain use case. And you might find that depending on the team, depending on even the developers, the APIs might be quite different. They might have different naming conventions, they might have different layout, and it's difficult to enforce those standards when everybody's going off and doing things in a smaller, more condensed approach to the problem, rather than looking at the big picture. It's hard to create a common language for the data, as each application team exposing APIs will tend to write in their own way. And this, of course, has the unintended consequences of creating an integration burden on other teams and on system suppliers, where you need to integrate with NHS Wales, or NHS Wales teams need to integrate with each other. So what we want to move to is a more common interoperable standard for exposing data in a healthcare setting. And this is really where Fire comes into place. So Fire is a standard for healthcare data exchange. It's a way of describing common concepts in healthcare. Fire is a standard for it's a standard for healthcare data exchange. It gives a structure and framework for resources common in a healthcare setting. So that common language that everybody can connect to. So when we were looking at the previous slide, we were looking at maybe some organizational information where it's been implemented two different ways depending on what you're looking at. Whereas if the teams conformed to Fire in the first place, or used Fire APIs, then there'd be a standard definition that they'd be able to conform to, and that standard definition would be something that's, publicly available, used worldwide, and something that would make it so much easier for not just other teams to integrate with, because they'd be able to understand the standards that they needed to develop against, but would allow third-party suppliers and system suppliers to understand what to expect as well. The great thing about Fire is that it has loads and loads of different resources, loads of common concepts in healthcare. So Fire solutions are built from a set of modular components called resources, and these resources can be assembled into a working system that'll solve real-world clinical and administrative problems. So there's all types of different resources here. You can see from the image, there's everything from the individual, the patient, the practitioner, the organization, all the way to code systems, value sets, concept maps when we're looking at terminology information as well. And a key thing as well that Fire gives us is that it gives us Fire profiles, which allow us to define required fields, to give a set of rules on how we can use certain resources within Fire, and what extensions we can give to them as well. So there's not an assumption within Fire that everything is exactly the way you'd need it, and you wouldn't need anything additional, or there's no requirement for adding additional fields. You can extend a Fire resource as well as needed through using Fire profiles. Now, one of the things in the ecosystem we've been looking at quite a lot is Fire, and when I spoke about looking at APIs earlier, we're looking at Fire APIs. So this is an example where we're looking at Welsh reference data set, where we've taken some samples of organization, practitioner role, and we've been able to create an experimental words FHIR API. Now it's not a production API yet, but as we go forward, we can build those proof of concept FHIR APIs that represent our existing data, and those APIs can be used to expose data in NHS Wales in a consistent manner that other suppliers can adhere to. So with regards to the ecosystem, there's kind of two aspects to this, and I guess one of the things we were talking about at the start, and appreciating that I've gone into FHIR and giving a bit of background right now, was how we'll expose it down the line and how you can integrate with us. And there's key things that we want to achieve as an ecosystem. We want to get those FHIR APIs out there. We want to develop R&D and test FHIR APIs that then we can look to bring to production. But as well as that, we want to look at existing production APIs that are already available and see if we can get them available through through an NHS Wales portal to ease that burden of integration for developers right now. So with regards to FHIR, we've already looked at the national agreed reference data, looking at WCRS, the Welsh Care Record Service, where we could put a FHIR facade on top of that for storing of documents, WRS, where we could look at retrieving patient test results for pathology and radiology, and terminology as well, where we could expose FHIR terminology, where you could look up codes for clinical classifications and ontologies. So I guess a key thing that you be asking next is, well, how do we access these? And I think a key driver for us is that we wanted to create an API marketplace to build a platform which connects all the stakeholders within the healthcare industry and improves the efficiency of the entire care process. So, and that wouldn't just be for third parties. It would be for within NHS Wales as well, so that there's visibility of what everybody's doing in an open and transparent way. So starting point for that, a key starting point, is to catalogue the APIs we've got. So what we want to do, being open and visible about it, is looking at creating a catalogue of the current APIs for developers to understand what's available right now, what's in the NHS Wales catalogue right now, and then look at those APIs and where there's a drive to see where we can bring them into, put a sandbox implementation behind them as well. And one of the things, how are we going to get access this to? One of the things we've been doing is looking at API management. So for those who don't know, looking at cloud API management is where we can set processes that enable business to have control over and visibility of the APIs that connect their applications, to give us more control, but also to create that API gateway, a clear route in, and ease that integration requirements as well. So that would allow us to lower the barriers to access, but also from our point of view, it would allow us to very quickly be able to get sandbox APIs up there in place, ready for people to look at, which we also could, control, monitor access of, have a review usage, and understand the requirements and improve the requirements based on that. So all of this will be exposed through a portal where we're looking at portal content such as the API catalog, such as selected sandbox APIs initially as well. But we also want to look at getting software developer kits and guides available for those sandbox APIs. So where we've got an API in place through the portal that people would want to use or build a proof of concept against, we could then have user guides in place for them to understand what to do, how to do it. You have some examples and use cases available to aid that, to aid the developer in building that proof of concept. But we want the portal to be a bit bigger than that. It could just be a front end for just the APIs, but it should really be a developer portal that brings you along the journey of understanding what you need to do to integrate with NHS Wales. And a key driver for that will be standards as well. So we're working with teams within NWIS right now, and we'll look to go further afield as well, to be able to put standards in place so that any developer coming along looking to integrate with NHS Wales understands the requirements on them. And on top of standards, obviously there's assurance requirements. It's what do you need to get access to the production information as well. So we want to be able to expose through the portal a full path, a full route from accessing the portal, understanding what APIs are available, how you can integrate with them with your system, building a proof of concept, and then understanding what your next steps are to go through the stages to get production access. And yet again, the driver for all of this is an open architecture approach. We do want to open up access to NHS Wales data resources. So a couple of quick slides on, I think you can appreciate that the benefit would be that it would be a single place for guidance on how to access NHS Wales resources, and it would ease that integration for systems as well, for third-party suppliers, for internal developers. One of the benefits is if we can build a go-to place for developers looking to integrate with NHS Wales, we can also promote the use of consistent standards as well, where we can work with content creators within NWIS. We can build a framework for adding content and a consistent approach to how we can expose this information for others to use as well. And all of that is, of course, is in the benefit of having an open and transparent approach, so that we're visible on. We're visible, and you can understand how to engage with us and other application teams. And this reduces the burden on developers as well. It allows it gives us more scope to rapidly prototype solutions and get that through the process a lot quicker as well. And what we want to do the whole way along is to improve the technical standards as we're doing this. So open technical standards, improved standards of documentation and information available. So the next steps for us, and I will be, just to mention, if you're all wondering, I will be doing a demo of the site in a second. The next steps for us is we really want to work in an agile manner. So we want people to give us feedback as early as possible, and to bring together a portal that truly benefits engagement and integration with NHS Wales and speeds up the process of integration. We want it to be user focused. We want to build something that developers want. So getting that feedback is key. And as Helen mentioned before, there's a questionnaire available at the end. Please feel free to ask in the Q&A or to contact us afterwards. We'll work with the Life Sciences Hub to improve industry engagement on the developer portal as well as part of this now. We're also looking at how we can use API management to improve how APIs are exposed through NHS Wales. So this isn't just in our sandbox. We're also looking, the groundwork that we've been doing and the foundations that we're laying are really focused on us being able to productionize an easier approach to getting access to these APIs as well. To build a catalog of developer-focused content, which I think goes without saying. As well as that, we want to help out the information services team to aid in the rollout of national terminology service. So we're working with information services in NWIS to look at publishing terminology, information, SNOMED clinical terms and guidelines for Wales, which hopefully will be available through the portal sooner rather than later. And to create an all NHS Wales Developer Portal down the line, where we can expose that to where we can get organisations, wider organisations such as shared services or the health boards or social care Wales to also interact, to build up an open technical architecture that's available to everyone, and to provide developers and system suppliers with an understanding needed to access the range of digital services. And the ecosystem is really a key enabler for wider system transformation through the national data resource. So the NDR project, which is a very large project happening, and we're kind of the ecosystem, kind of a sister project to that. The national data resource is a big project happening within NHS Wales at the moment. A very quick slide on it. They're looking at improving patient experience and service outcomes as well, and looking at building that common language and technical interoperability in a health and care setting. So the strategic direction from here is that we link up with the NDR program as two key enablers to opening up the architecture, to progress and to fully launch, because we're only really in an early beta at the moment. We need more feedback. We need more. We need feedback, and we need to. And we're working with teams to get additional content as well. To build one portal for Wales, so looking at rolling out in time to the wider organisations, as I've mentioned, and to having a linked up process to paths to production as well, where we really want to ease that burden of integration for developers. And developer engagement as well. Obviously, we want to continue to engage with industry partners to determine your requirements and consider work. So we will look to work with partners over the course of the year and develop develop the APIs and portal that you guys need. So without further ado, I'm just going to change my if I can get my mouse up. I'm just going to change my presentation a second and show you where we're at with the portal right now. So this is the beta version of the portal. What we've got available is some information. You can sign up. So as you'd expect, you can sign up here. Just coming up in a second. So we do need you to register to have access to the APIs, obviously enough. But if you sign up, and I'll just log in as myself in a second, and I can show you some of the functionality that we've got in place already. So we have an active GitHub repository as well, where we'll be adding more to. As a signed up user, you'll have a user profile which you can subscribe to the sandbox APIs. Now we can create different products as well. So down the line, we'll be looking at maybe separating things out and putting more information in there. But really what we want to do is give you access to the sandbox. So if we subscribe to this, and you can see here, this will give me 2 subscription keys. And these subscription keys can be used to access the sandbox APIs. So from that point of view, we've got first off, I mentioned about the catalog a little bit earlier. We've got a catalog of APIs as we're aware of them at the moment. We're working with teams to get this filled out more and more as well. So this is a catalog of both experimental and APIs that are currently in production, with a description of what they do. We've got a sandbox available of, I think it is 6 different main APIs at the moment, including some terminology information, reference information as well. So if I click on the reference information, you'll be able to go in here. You'll be able to see the different operations that you'll be able to access against it. There is a try it function on the right here as well, but you could obviously move to a system like an application like Postman or whatnot to submit these requests. So we've got example code in here as well of what you can do. So you can do test queries through the portal or use Postman, and we've also got user guides in place. So this is quite a simple one at the moment, but we're looking at expanding. That, getting a lot more data, a lot more user guide information available for all of the APIs that are in there. So this is obviously something that's growing. That's growing as quickly as we can. We're working in an agile manner to get data and information available for you. We have some. And there is some small information. We'll be looking to expose standards down the line as well. Like I said, working with teams to get more information on what standards and linking up what expectations are required for developing within NHS Wales. So I'm going to just change my presentation a second and go back to, and go back to this, and just to say ahead of the Q&A, please do feel free to contact us if you have any queries, suggestions, or ideas of how we can work with you. So that's me on the left, Eugene O'Sullivan. There's Kerry Ann, who's our project officer as well, and Helen and Catherine, who work for the Life Sciences Hub as well. And I think, I'm sorry if I went through that way quicker than I probably should have. Hopefully that's given you a good idea of everything that's going on. I'd very happy to open it up for a Q&A to have a discussion about what we're looking to do and what you're hoping to achieve. And please do make sure you feed back to us as well, through Menti or whatnot.
Yes, so what we're asking people to do now is go to menti.com and use the code 15344 to provide us with feedback on the questions that we've got outlined on the slide. First of all, I want to thank Eugene and the entire team within NWES who work on the ecosystem, but all the technical teams that they've worked with to build the developer portal. It's taken us quite some time. We learned some lessons, but it's been supported right across the organisation. So a big thank you to that team. But we do have an opportunity now for questions. So we have a sidebar. You can sort of send through your questions to us, and we can actually have that conversation now if anybody has any questions. And if you just want to, but at the same time, we're really keen that we get feedback through menti.com. We have 35 people on this call, which is why we're sort of splitting up feedback and questions, because I think otherwise we wouldn't get a chance to get round and get feedback from everyone. And we're, you know, absolutely thrilled that many people have turned up to listen to talk to us about the developer portal. So the first question that I've got for you, Eugene, is can anyone sign up for the developer portal, or do you need an NHS email address?
No, the developer portal will be publicly available, so you can, obviously it's all about opening up the architecture. It's about opening up the standards, making it publicly visible, so you can go along and you can register and use it. And if you register, you get an API key, and then you can use that API key to run queries against the APIs, or if you're looking to build a proof of concept, maybe it could help you work through that.
Okay, I think people are still pondering their questions. So my question for you, Eugene, is what was the biggest challenge, do you think, in pulling together the portal?
I think it's about getting access. I guess it's getting information for the portal. What we need to do is make sure that we're working well with the teams, and it's building that engagement. You know, one of the things that a key driver for me since I joined the ecosystem team is to build that engagement with other NHS Wales team and really drive the benefit of this. And I think we're definitely seeing it within NWES now as well, that a lot of teams are really signed up. They can see how beneficial it is to have a go-to place for developers to understand their requirements, and a lot of teams a lot of teams want to work with us now and get data on here. So it's just about expanding it now and getting as much information down there as possible to help people out and to get feedback as well. So please do give us feedback on it, because we want to build a portal that actually benefits developers.
We've had a clarification question asked. On one of the slides, it mentioned WCRS FHIR documents. Is that an API interface for posting patient data?
That is a sandbox API that does not go to anything production or anything like that. The WCRS FHIR API is there as a test bed it's a proof of concept experimental API that would allow you to test WCRS functionality in a safe FHIR setting. So the current API is SOAP, I believe, but this is a test one.
So the next questions come in from Dave Price. Can you please describe the live APIs available and who can access them?
So when you say, at the moment, the sandboxes that are, so if you go to the sandbox functionality, we have got as previously mentioned, we've got the WCRS FHIR document, which would allow you to submit a test patient document. We've got a subset of words reference data. So we've been looking at exposing organizational reference data. So there is two different endpoints. That there's a RESTful and a SOAP endpoint, which we've got information behind, as well as a FHIR endpoint. We also are looking to expose FHIR terminology information, which will be backed by onto a server information onto a server with the information team with the information services team in NWES. So they would be looking at using the portal to expose information on SNOMED CT guidelines for Wales, as well as allowing people to test development against that fire terminology API. So we've got in place we've got existing experimental fire APIs, and we are looking to expand. And really, that's something that you could help us prioritize as well. If there's certain APIs within the catalog that you feel it would be hugely beneficial if we could get the existing production, an instance of the existing production there that you could build a proof of concept against, then we could look at that. At the moment, obviously, bearing in mind there is no production or patient identifiable information available through the portal right now. This is proof of concept, test sandbox information.
So the next question from Martin Davis: can you confirm the URL of the developer portal?
Yeah, the developer portal will be at developer.nhs.wales. And like I said, at the moment, it's a beta implementation. We're working in an agile manner. We want to get feedback early. We want to understand your requirements early and build in that direction. So while we don't have as much on there yet as we'd like, we're going to continually build that catalog of information up and continually build that up to that process.
We're getting some great questions, and the next one is from Tony. Is there work going on to define the Wales NHS profiles for fire requests? Who is involved in that and making decisions about what the profiles cover?
So there is an interoperability group being set up between NDR, the ecosystem, and NWIS as a whole, looking to contribute to the UK core fire profile. Sorry, I can't remember the name of it now. The UK core profiles. So yes, there's and I believe that within NWIS as well, there are information standards teams looking at fire profiles as well. So I think particularly for NDR, where they're looking at fire as a key enabler for what they're trying to do, it's a big driver for us that we look at fire profiles for NHS Wales.
Great. That's all the questions that we've had submitted so far. So I think another one for me is if there was one thing, and I know we've asked for feedback, if there was one thing you wanted from the attendees today, or one specific question or even just a bullet point that you would like, what would that be? What would be most helpful to you?
I think it's understanding, yeah, like even if it's a bullet point, it's understanding what they want to achieve from the portal, how it would help them. I think if looking at it from that user-centric point of view that we want to take, if you can come along to the portal, have a look at it, and say, right, well, what I really need is maybe access to this API if you know what APIs you're already looking for, or give us guidance and clarity on what would really benefit you if you feel that there's things there that aren't there yet that you want. The more feedback, the better.
And on the portal, there's clear ways to communicate to us.
Yeah. With
that feedback if it's outside of this session.
So they can obviously discuss through the Menti questionnaire right now. Within the portal, we also have a little widget where you can give us feedback with a happy face and frown faces, and allows you to send some text. You can also contact us. You can either contact us through the Life Sciences Hub, through Helen and Catherine's work, or you can contact us on ecosystem@wales.nhs.uk as well. We'd love to hear from you, and as long as you make your criticism constructive, we'll be delighted to hear it. And please bear in mind that we do want to add a lot more content to the portal. We want to get a lot more out there, and we really do want to make this user focused. We want it to be something that benefits people and that they get something out of. Great.
And actually, following on from that point, I think one of the things that we've talked about as a team is that as things are added or new sort of services and opportunities come on the portal, we'll want to be coming out to our audience, to our community, and for more sort of events, workshops, trying to sort of get that interactivity and feedback. And that's the plan, isn't it, Eugene?
Absolutely. And one of the things we are looking at as well is where we look, if you're registered with the portal, what we will do is as we're adding content, we'll make sure that we're sending out, if you're registered with an email on the portal, it will send out updates on additional content as it's being added, so that you're aware of what's happening. And like I said, you know, the ecosystem team has two sides to it, so you'll also hear updates from the Life Sciences Hub side, from Helen and Catherine as well, about what we're up to.
Right, next question is from Duncan Brown. Can you confirm that HL7 Fire is the preferred method for data exchange and linking systems to the portal?
Yeah, yes, I think with regards to the NDR and the ecosystem, I think we're pretty focused on using Fire as our standard interoperability approach at the moment. So yes, sorry, I can't give you a more verbose answer than that. Yeah, I think we're concentrating on Fire, and to my knowledge, that there's nothing, there's no plans to change that immediately.
So we've had a very specific question. Are we planning on writing APIs to link directly with EMIS and Vision?
It's not, so we could look at talking to the integration team about this, but I believe there is integration. There are some integrations already there, maybe. I'm not aware of that just yet, if I'm being bluntly honest, but I don't know, possibly. We can get back to you on that one if you want.
Yeah, and I think the key thing would be understanding what the reasons for linking to those systems were, in terms of what we were trying to achieve. Another question: can the portal address now be shared with wider teams?
I believe so. We're like I said, we're in beta, and we're looking at getting feedback. So it's really, you know, yes, I think so. Yeah. And
will any applications developed have to be hosted on the NHS Wales network, or will they be allowed to be hosted on external services, e.g. AWS? Will we be providing guidance on secure deployment on external platforms? That's a big question.
Yeah. We can look at that, and that's something that I can look at talking to looking at the standards team within NWIS about getting more information there, to particularly with regards to information governance. So we will look to work with information governance to get more information out there. With regards to the portal itself, like I said, these are to help you develop a proof of concept. It is available, so we're hosted in the cloud. It's available for you to access. You don't have to be within the NHS Wales network to access these test implementations. And then obviously with regards to going to production, that would be something that we need to look at on as part of your path to production. So we could talk about that as you were moving your development forward. But happy to talk to you more about that if you want to drop us a line.
So Dave Price is asking how we are prioritizing API development.
So we've got we've got a work plan of different APIs that we want to develop in Fire through our own business plan. But also, I mean, what we're doing right now, this engagement right now, could be a key driver in how we focus our development as well. So this is something that we're looking at, in particular with the Fire APIs. It's something that we're looking at as you know, we could develop experimental ones, but in conjunction with NDR, so that we're moving in the right direction, and we're doing the work in an incremental manner that is beneficial to the requirements and expectations of NHS Wales.
And I think also our intention has always been to publish our development plan, and we were at the point of doing that in March, but obviously other things got in the way. And I think that one of the things the developer portal will be key for is sort of identifying what we think the next sort of priorities are, so that we can get that feedback as we go along this journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, follow-up question, will there be an API changement board?
An API changement board?
Yes, I think so. I'm just trying to so that was a question from Dave Price, so I don't know if Dave wants to clarify for us.
So is this kind of like a cab for the APIs, do you mean? So at the moment, it's something we're working on. It's because different teams develop different APIs, and what we want to do is, for NHS Wales's benefit, what we were looking at, and something we've been discussing with the integration team as well, is where they could use the portal as their SIT or sandbox environment. So At the moment, until that kind of more clear route to production through API management is set, it would be a case that I think it would be at the team's behest what data we can put on there, because you got to remember, we're not putting any patient identifiable information on there. We're not putting anything. This is just test implementations. So I don't think there's an issue I don't think there's a need for a CAB on that at the moment, but we'll take guidance on that as well.
Thanks for Dave for clarifying. He meant change management board. So.
Good.
So the next question, on the WRDS slide, it had get all GP practices as an example. Would these APIs be suitable for retrieving whole data sets? And would there be any restrictions on this?
There are restrictions, yeah. So a whole data set is probably a bit excessive. It's limited at the moment with regards to the APIs. There will be 5 calls per minute to a maximum of 100 calls per day per subscription, and that's something that we'll look at usage on as well. So really, you shouldn't be using this in a production manner, So we're looking at limiting it, but not limiting it too much. It should be available as something that you can use within your system to help build that proof of concept.
Okay, we've already gone through 16 questions and they've been excellent. So I'm just waiting to see if there are any other questions from our audience. And if you have colleagues who you think should be here for this presentation, we did set up a second session on Friday. Unfortunately, all the tickets for that have also gone. But as we said, we will be publishing this on YouTube after the events, and you'll be able to check that out from the digitalhealth.wales site /DHEW. And we'll have the presentation slides available there as well, so you can go back and refer to the session that we've just gone through. So in the absence of any further questions, just another reminder, before you sign off today, please go to menti.com and give us some feedback, either right now or later if that's going to suit you better. But we cannot develop this to suit your needs unless we know what they are. And then I would just like to thank Eugene and thank the team, thank Catherine, and thank you all for attending. This is part of Wales Technology Week. We've got one last question. Is the call limit set in stone, or is it negotiable depending on user needs?
Yes, we could make it negotiable. So within API management, we can control. It can be controlled down to the operation, really. So if it was, if you came and talked to us and said, well, actually, for this specific use case, we could use additional access or whatnot. That's something we could talk about as part of your development requirements and interactions with NWIS. Well,
thank you. We'll wrap up at this stage so we can give you some minutes back in your afternoon. Thank you all for the participation. Hope this event has been useful as part of Wales Technology Week, and go have a play with the developer portal and give us that feedback. So
thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much, everyone.